Elias had grown accustomed to the sounds of carnival chatter and the bright neon haze that settled like a shimmering band around the fairgrounds every evening. He was the operator of the Ferris wheel, the majestic ride that rose above the whirling attractions of the fair. From his vantage point, he could see the tilt-a-whirls, carousels, and bumper cars that surrounded the Ferris wheel's base. Every night, the air filled with the drone of electric generators, squeals of excited children, and music that burst intermittently from the speakers. For years, he had borne witness to the joy of families and couples who stepped into the gondolas, carrying with them excitement and sometimes trepidation. But in all that time, he never imagined that these rolling lights and soft cotton candy breezes could become the setting for something deeper than routine contentment. He was a man of simple pleasures. At 29, Elias had spent the better part of his life traveling with the carnival. His father had also been a ride operator before him, and Elias had grown up wandering sideshows filled with clowns, fortune tellers, and performers who spun fire under smoky spotlights. When his father died, Elias took over the Ferris wheel job. There was something about seeing the fair from up high, observing a constellation of blinking bulbs below, that tugged at his heart. He chose this life because it felt like home. The transience of the carnival, folding up tents and moving to new towns across the country, appealed to him in a way he did not always understand. At times, though, he questioned if the thrill was permanent, or if he was missing some big piece of life that never quite fit in a traveling suitcase. On a Thursday afternoon in late summer, the fair's foot traffic dwindled under the heat, and Elias made small talk with his coworker who sold cotton candy beside the Ferris wheel. They complained about how the humidity curled the edges of their carnival posters, and how the occasional breeze from the nearby river only taunted them with brief bursts of relief. In an hour or two, the crowd would return for the cooler evening, and the stands would come alive with chatter once more. He noticed a young woman with a backpack slung over her shoulder. She was petite, with deep brown hair that cascaded past her shoulders in loose waves. The strap of her camera bag pulled at her t-shirt, hinting at the creative spark she carried with her. She stood just outside the queue for the Ferris wheel, snapping photos of the swirling rides and sipping from a tall cup of lemonade. At first, she was simply one more face in the never-ending crowd, but her presence lingered, her eyes shifting from lens to horizon, trying to capture more than just a fleeting carnival moment. She approached the Ferris wheel with cautious excitement. Elias thought she looked as if she were about to embark on a grand journey. He smiled and motioned for her to come closer, inviting her with the wave of his hand. She stepped forward, carefully gripping her camera. "Would you like to ride?" he asked, leaning slightly over the safety bar. She looked at the Ferris wheel's sweeping height, the gondolas gently swinging, and breathed in the pastel clouds of cotton candy swirling around them. "Absolutely," she replied. "I fly out of town tomorrow, and I promised my blog readers I'd end my trip with the best view this fair has to offer." He found something charming in her words. She spoke easily, as if they'd known each other longer than a minute. "I'm Elias," he offered. "You must be new in town." "I'm Serena," she responded, taking his outstretched hand. Her skin felt warm, radiating the leftover heat of the sun. "I'm a travel blogger. I've been chronicling this little corner of the state for the past week, and the posts have been a hit so far. The Ferris wheel's my final stop, apparently the crown jewel of the summer fair." Elliot could not help but swell with a trace of pride for the Ferris wheel, a ride he had devoted much of his life to. "Then you've come to the right place," he said. He opened the gondola's small door and guided her inside. With a practiced hand, he eased the control lever, allowing the wheel to revolve methodically upward. There was something magical about being suspended in the air, the carnival's music drifting up in waves. Serena kept snapping pictures, her eyes glowing whenever she glimpsed a new angle. Elias, from below, turned the wheel slowly to give her the best vantage points. She didn't realize it, but he was watching her eagerness with an appreciation that felt altogether new. He'd met thousands of riders, yet he never had the urge to slow the wheel for someone before. Often, riders came in pairs or groups, but Serena rode solo, and something about her presence demanded he pay attention. When the ride ended, she climbed out with her camera clutched to her chest, as if it were her most treasured belonging. "That was perfect," she said, smiling warmly. "Thank you." He nodded, not entirely sure how to translate his fluttering thoughts into words. "Anytime." She lingered by the railing, checking the photos on her camera. Other customers began trickling in with the cooling evening, so Elias resumed letting people on and off, making small jokes about heights and taking tickets with that practiced carnival flair. Every so often, he glanced over to see Serena reviewing her images, nibbling on a tuft of pink cotton candy, or scribbling notes in a small leather journal. Her expression was curious and bright, and she occasionally brushed hair off her shoulder in a casual gesture that made Elias wish he could keep talking to her. Eventually, the evening crowd swelled in earnest. A group of teenagers jostled each other in line while older couples ambled around them, seeking a calm Ferris wheel ride to top off the day. Children tugged at the hems of their parents' shirts, pleading for one more spin. Then, when the queue slowly began to clear for a moment, Elias realized Serena had disappeared from the immediate vicinity. He tried to shrug off a pang of disappointment. She was just another traveler, after all, bound for her next adventure. Still, he felt something intangible was left unsettled. Minutes passed, and then an hour. The lights of the carnival glowed in a flood of candy-colored brilliance, and the music seemed to rattle more cheerfully as the evening wore on. The next time he reached for a new ticket, he nearly startled. There was Serena again, standing at the front of the line. She wasn't alone anymore. She had a friend with her, a local she had met earlier that day, and the two were laughing about some inside joke. Before climbing onto the ride, Serena turned toward Elias with that same polite, friendly smile. His chest tightened unexpectedly. He wanted to ask her how her photos looked. He wanted to know where she had gone in the interval between rides. He realized with sudden clarity that she intrigued him in a way no other random visitor ever had. But it was too busy, the line pressing for spots in the gondolas, so all he could do was nod her onto the ride with a polite wave. At least the fleeting moment confirmed she hadn't left the fair altogether. Soon enough, the Ferris wheel glided forward again, sending gondolas swirling softly into the star-speckled sky. This time, Serena laughed with her friend, pointing out wide swaths of lights from their leathery bench. From below, Elias gazed up and caught glimpses of the delight on her face, her silhouette outlined against the pink and purple bulbs that crowned the giant wheel. Something about it felt like a spark inside his chest, catching him off guard. Night wore on, and the flood of carnival goers began thinning near closing time. Lights flickered, rides slowed, and the robotic carnival voice announced they would be shutting down in 15 minutes. In the distance, some of Elias's co-workers started the nightly routine of sweeping debris and folding up small stands. He let the last few customers enjoy their ride, including Serena and her friend, who hopped back on to soak in one final experience before the fair shuttered for the night. The moon was high now, and the breeze carried a sweet hush through the fair. When he helped Sereny disembark, her friend had already bounded off to chase a snack at one of the remaining open stalls. Sereny lingered, glancing at Elias with a curious expression. "Thanks for letting me ride again," she said quietly. "I know it's past closing time. You must be tired." Elias smiled. "Not too tired," he admitted. "The carnival closes soon, but I'm used to the late hours. Very little here happens in the daylight." Serena's attention caught on the bright lights overhead, still blinking in measured intervals. "I can't help it," she said. "I love places like this. All the color, the movement. It feels like I'm riding a whirlwind of wonder, and I never know what might happen." Her words stirred something in Elias. He had lived this life so long that lately he'd forgotten the enchantment. "I guess I take it for granted," he said. "But your enthusiasm rubs off. You see the beauty in it." A comfortable silence stretched between them. The fair was nearly deserted now, and crickets' songs started to rise from the grass. Serena tucked her hair behind her ear. I should go find my friend, she said, but I'm leaving tomorrow, and there's so much I'd like to capture for my readers. You probably have cleanup duties, though. Elias shifted on his feet, pulling the lever that switched off the Ferris wheel lights. I do, technically, but it's nothing urgent. They have people to handle most of it. You want to wander around for a bit? I can show you parts of the carnival that maybe you didn't see in the daytime. Her face lit with gratitude. That would be wonderful. They strolled past the vacant game booths, some half closed. Elias pointed out the plush prizes, the ones that rarely got won, and explained the illusions behind the ring toss or balloon dart games. Serena took pictures of anything that caught her eye. She peppered him with questions about traveling with the carnival, about the year-long itinerary, Florida in the winter, up through the Carolinas in spring, and further north by summer. While she snapped photos, Elias told her about the dozens of small towns across the country where the carnival pitched its tent. She listened intently, her eyes sparkling at each new detail. Eventually, they reached an area behind the rides where the staff trailers were parked. The crickets grew louder here, and the flicker of a distant street lamp provided meager visibility. A hush fell, contrasting the earlier carnival. They paused near a low fence that separated the fairgrounds from a rivulet of water flowing by. The moon illuminated the shy glimmer of water between the reeds. Serena leaned on the fence, camera in hand, as Aaliyah stood beside her. I always wonder, she said softly, if it gets lonely traveling around so much, or if people ever form close bonds. Both, he replied. We carnival folks are like a nomadic family. We all watch out for each other, celebrate birthdays in the middle of nowhere, and share stories around campfires. But sometimes I do wish for something more permanent, somebody to share it with, actually share it. Life on the road makes it hard to maintain relationships. The crickets chirped in thoughtful agreement. Serena exhaled. That's beautiful, though. I mean, a tribe of travelers, each with their own dreams, drifting from town to town in a constant state of wonder. I can see the appeal. Elias studied her face, and for a moment words eluded him. Her presence was comfortable, warm. What about you? Traveling for your blog all the time, doesn't that get lonely? She shrugged. Sometimes. I get to collect so many incredible experiences, meet fascinating people, share it with my audience. But there's always a part of me that wonders if there's a place I should call home. A place, or maybe a person, someone who grounds me. She cast him a quick look as if checking to see whether she'd shared too much. But his open expression reassured her. I love my life on the road, she continued, though maybe someday I'll be ready to settle. In that moment, they heard rustling behind them. Her friend, newly armed with a fried dough pastry, was calling out, Serena! The friend held up the treat and beckoned. We should get going. Serena's gaze snapped to her friend, then back to Elias. I guess that's my cue, she said quietly, a trace of regret in her voice. Take care, he said, meeting her eyes. And thanks for letting me see my own carnival through your lens. She smiled, seeming unsure whether to say goodbye or if such simplicity would suffice. Thanks for the tour. She took a step back, then paused. You really gave me a special look into this place, Elias. I appreciate it. He nodded, and she turned away, rejoining her companion. Inside him, conflict stirred. There was no logical reason to chase after a stranger he had only met hours before, a woman who was most likely leaving town tomorrow, but his heart thrummed with a different sort of logic. Perhaps it was the intangible magic of the carnival, or perhaps it was the undeniable synergy that could happen when two travelers, each drifting in their own way, bumped together by sheer luck. Long after they disappeared from view, Elias remained by the fence, the air humming with fading carnival tunes. He could still sense her presence somehow, as if she'd left an imprint on the night's hush. For the first time in a long while, he felt compelled to follow that feeling, to act on it in some small way. But Serena was leaving tomorrow, and unless he did something, words or actions, she might slip through his fingers like so many passing faces in the carnival. The next morning, Elias woke up earlier than usual and headed to the fairgrounds. It took a bit of sweet talking and a couple of phone calls to track down her lodging. He discovered she was staying in a motel near the interstate, the only lodging that travelers passing through town often used. With the Ferris wheel silent and half the stands closed for the day, he felt a strange mix of urgency and hesitancy. When he arrived at the motel, it seemed modest but clean, a row of rooms facing a thin parking lot, each with a metal number on the door. Elias approached the small front office, uncertain of how to proceed. But fate was kind. Suddenly, he recognized Serena outside one of the rooms, carefully loading her luggage into a rental car. His heart rate spiked. He debated whether to approach or to remain in the periphery. Then she looked up, and their eyes met. She froze, suitcase halfway into the trunk. "Elias, what are you doing here?" Her tone was less suspicious than surprised. He raised a hand in a small wave. "I wanted to catch you before you left. Is that okay?" She left the suitcase, took a step toward him. "Yeah, of course. I thought I was the one who always went to find the story." He glanced at the ground. "I'm sorry if I'm overstepping. I know you're heading out, but I realized I might regret it if I didn't come say goodbye properly." Her eyes traveled over his face, searching for sincerity. "That's sweet," she said softly. "I'm actually about to drive to the airport." Elias noticed she was wearing jeans and a light jacket now, ready for air travel. There was a finality to it that clutched at him, yet he forced himself to be brave. "There's something I wanted to show you," he said. "It won't take long, just a short drive, if you have time." A mixture of curiosity and hesitation flitted across her features. "I do have a little time," she decided, glancing at her phone. "My flight isn't for another few hours, so let's do it. I'd love to see more." Relief washed over him. "Follow me," he said, pointing to his own battered pickup truck. "We'll be quick." They drove out of the motel lot, turning away from the highway. The roads eventually led them toward a hill just beyond the carnival site, a place where the farmland spanned wide and majestic. On top of that hill, there was a vantage point locals often referred to as the best secret in town. No fancy observation decks, just raw land and a view of the horizon that swallowed you up. They parked at the end of a winding dirt path. Tall grasses swished in a mild morning breeze. Elias hopped out, then offered an outstretched hand to help Serena navigate the uneven terrain. She seemed grateful for the support, balancing her camera in the other hand. Together they climbed a small slope, revealing a sweeping panorama of the valley below. The carnival ride stood out as painted toy-like structures in the distance. He spoke quietly. "I've wanted to come here for a while, to watch the carnival from a distance. It's where I come sometimes when I need to think and see the bigger picture." Serena rummaged for her camera, capturing the scene. The Ferris wheel was visible, a tiny arc rising above the surrounding farmland. Beyond it, the early morning haze gave everything a dreamlike quality. She sat on a rock, glancing over at Elias. "You really do have the best views around here." He returned her gaze. "It's something I hoped you'd like. You can capture that final snapshot for your blog one that might show the fair in all its context, not just neon lights at night." She lifted the camera, adjusting the lens as she zoomed in. The shutter clicked, capturing the carnival in morning stillness. Then she lowered her camera, turning to him. "Thank you for bringing me here. I mean it. This is perfect." He hesitated a moment, then spoke the words that had formed in his mind while trying to justify tracking her down. "Look, I know you're leaving soon, and I also know you have this life that takes you to different corners of the world. But meeting you," he exhaled, a faint laugh of self-consciousness escaping. "You reminded me that there's magic in all this. I guess I was wondering if, once you leave, could we keep in touch? Call, text, email, whatever you're comfortable with." Serena studied him. A gentle breeze swept her hair off her face, and her eyes brightened at the sincerity in his voice. I'd like that, she said. Really, I would. You never know, I might cross paths with the carnival again, or, well, there might be a time I need to see these twirling lights again. She reached into her camera bag and pulled out a small business card. It had her name, a phone number, and a link to her blog. Here, she said, you can follow my travels and send me messages so I know how the Ferris wheel's doing. Elias took the card reverently, a sense of excitement coursing through him. But I have something else I wanted to share, if you're up for it. With a carefully measured movement, he unzipped the side of his jacket pocket and pulled out two small tickets, a pair of Ferris wheel passes, the carnival's gold embossed logo shining in the sunlight. My boss owed me a favor, he said, offering a sheepish grin. If you ever come across our route again, even if it's next year, these will get you on the Ferris wheel for free as many times as you want. She took the tickets with a grateful laugh. You carnival folks are generous. He shrugged. You have no idea. It's, well, partly it's just me hoping you'll come back. They stood in silence, side by side, gazing at the carnival from afar. The hush of the morning enveloped them, and for a moment, everything else felt trivial compared to the budding connection between them. A plane coursed through the sky overhead, leaving a faint, wispy trail. Elias found himself inching closer, uncertain if he should do more than talk. The gentle swaying of the grasses and the reflection of her eyes told him, yes, maybe this was that intangible moment. Serena realized it too. She set her camera aside and let herself lean towards him. His arm went around her lightly, as if testing the idea of closeness. They shared an understanding smile. Then, quietly, she reached on tiptoe and brushed her lips against his. It was a short, tender kiss, one that was not rushed or forced, but rather an acknowledgement of something they both felt. His heart thundered in his chest. She pulled away softly, glancing down. I didn't mean to be that forward, she murmured. He squeezed her hand gently. I'm glad you were. They stood, letting the weight of that quiet moment sink in. The wind shifted, announcing the day was moving on, that life was calling them both elsewhere. Eventually, they returned to their vehicles. He walked her to her car, wanting to hold on to the connection, if only for a moment more. Take care, she said, placing her camera on the passenger seat. I'll text you. Or email you pictures, something. Elias nodded and offered her a small grin. I'll be waiting. She got into her car, started the engine. With one final wave, she drove down the dusty path, merging onto the main road that would lead her to the airport. And just like that, she was gone. But not entirely. She'd taken up sudden residence in Elias's thoughts. That day, as he returned to the fair, every rung of the Ferris wheel reminded him of her. He spent the next few hours ensuring the gondolas were polished, the mechanism well-oiled. The carnival opened for the final evening in town, so he guided happy families on and off the Ferris wheel. But his mind drifted to the expression in Serena's eyes, and how the corner of her mouth turned up right before she smiled. Later that night, she sent him a text, letting him know she'd landed safely, but found herself missing the pink glow of the cotton candy stands and the gentle hum of the Ferris wheel. He replied promptly, sending a photo of the ride lit up against the night sky. I'll keep the wheel spinning, he wrote, until you come back to ride it again. Their conversations flourished, bridging the physical distance. In the weeks that followed, while Elias migrated with the carnival to new towns, Serena hopped between continents, 1 month in a bustling city, the next trekking over rugged terrain. But amid their separate journeys, a steady stream of words, photos, and voice messages flowed between them. In her, Elias discovered a fellow adventurer who understood the restlessness of a roving life. In him, Serena found a quiet sense of devotion. He was a man with a big heart, content in his corner of the world, but nonetheless curious about everything she was experiencing. They exchanged snippets of personal histories. Serena talked about her grandmother, who taught her how to appreciate wandering stories from a young age. Elias shared tales of the carnival family, how each person had a story that shaped the tapestry of life, on the road. Slowly, the separations of time and distance began to feel less imposing. The carnival drew close to its final stop of the year, a large fair in a bigger city where they would hunker down for a few weeks before traveling south. As luck would have it, Serena's travels brought her stateside around the same time. She asked Elias for the carnival's location so she could plan a short detour. "I'm giving a talk on travel blogging in about 2 days," she said over the phone, her voice crackling slightly. "But I have a free day this weekend. Would you want some company?" He laughed into the receiver, relief and excitement seeping into his voice. "Are you actually asking if I want to see you? Of course I do. Come this weekend. You still have those tickets, right?" "I do," she replied, the warmth in her tone evident. "I'm ready to use them." So the lines of fate converged once more. Early Saturday evening, just as the carnival lights flicked on, Serena reappeared at the Ferris wheel. This time, he was waiting outside the queue with a grin so wide it made onlookers wonder who this special guest might be. She wore a simple sundress, her cheeks flushed from the day's heat. The moment their eyes met, they both felt that thread of familiarity and excitement, braided together like a promise. Without hesitation, he folded her into a hug, lifting her slightly off the ground. Hand in hand, they went to the Ferris wheel. She offered her golden ticket with playful pomp, and Elias ceremoniously punched it, making her laugh. They boarded the gondola together, this time side by side, rising into the carnival sky. It was as if the entire ride was theirs, spinning them into a private orbit where time slowed and the hum of the carnival softened into a lullaby. "I'm glad you came," Elias said, squeezing her hand gently. "Me too," Serena replied, leaning against him. "I couldn't let this summer fade without coming back here, even if just for a day. I tried to write about that first Ferris wheel ride for my blog, but nothing seemed to do it justice. Something about it was transformative, and that might have a lot to do with the operator." He looked at her, heart tumbling against his ribcage. "Same for me. It's all the same carnival, but you showed me it could be more than a revolving routine. You reminded me it could be as the wheel reached its apex, the multicolored bulbs twinkled around them. The wind carried sweet scents of spun sugar and buttered popcorn, swirling up in the mild night air. Beneath them, couples strolled, children giggled, and carnival workers beckoned passers-by with stuffed animals and ring tosses. But for Elias and Serena, life seemed to crystallize in that gondola, weightless under the carnival canopy. They caught each other's eyes, and the world held its breath. There, silhouetted by the brilliant swirl of carnival lights, they kissed again, this time without uncertainty or haste, but tenderly, as though sealing a promise that had begun the moment she first stepped onto his Ferris wheel. They realized in some profound way that they had been spinning toward this destiny, one that neither had planned nor expected, but one that fit them both in a way that adventures sometimes do. When the wheel slowed back to the ground, they stepped off hand in hand. Their future lay open like a travel itinerary waiting to be written together. For a moment, they lingered among the carnival's last echoes, the swirling lights glinting in their eyes, savoring the sweetness of the cotton candy air and the warmth of newfound affection. Soon, Serena caught the slight strain on Elias's face. That question about what happened next. She touched his cheek gently. "I'm not giving this up," she murmured, the conviction tight in her voice. "Not this experience, not you. We'll figure it out. My traveling and your carnival route. There's always a way." He nodded, relief tangling with happiness. "Yes," he said, "we'll make it work." They walked arm in arm, weaving through the colorful stalls. In the background, the Ferris wheel kept spinning just as it always did, except this time it felt like a promise, a testament to the belief that some stories run their course in circles, coming back around with renewed wonder. And for each illuminated cycle, Elias and Serena looked forward to a future filled with new places, discovered together.